This is Winning with Wisdom Interactive.
What is the main reason marriages get into trouble? Well, that's a good question. That is a good question, because marriages are getting into trouble. Why are they getting into trouble? Let's go to Amos chapter 3. I'm going to pick it up in Amos 3:3. Amos 3:3. Here's what it says. Amos 3:3. You ready? Do two walk together except they make an appointment and have agreed? Two can't walk together in disagreement. Two have to walk together in agreement. And so, my brothers and sisters, the problem is, to be in agreement, you have to actually communicate to one another, and you have to agree on things together. And that's the problem in marriages today. They're not in agreement. He has his opinion, she has her opinion, and their opinions are based on how they were brought up. Well, this is the way I was when I was a kid. This is the way I saw my parents do it. This is the way I saw my relatives do it. This is and they're brought up with different backgrounds, and so they come together thinking that love is going to keep them together. Well, no, they have disagreements every day about this decision, that decision, finances, whatever's going on. They're going through disagreements all the time. The key is that you've got to learn to disagree without being disagreeable. And that's what we're going to talk about. What is this thing about disagreement? Come with me to Ephesians. I'm going to show you what happens in Ephesians. Ephesians chapter 4. The book of Ephesians is wonderful. It's telling us how to live the Word of God in our lives, in our marriages. And in Ephesians chapter 4, here's what it says. Verse 26. Watch this. When angry, do not sin. Do not ever let your wrath or anger last until the sun goes down. Watch this. Verse 27. Leave no such room for the devil. So anger literally opens the door and leaves room for the devil. Let the thief, that says, leave no such room for the devil. Give him no opportunity. So let's break this down. Is it possible to disagree? Yes. Is it possible to get angry over a situation? Yes. And the problem is, communication is where we miss out. When should we communicate? Good question. When should we not communicate? Oh, good question. Sometimes we communicate at the wrong times, and it just makes matters worse when we should have communicated at the right time. There is a time from communication. You should have communication, no question about it, but there is a timing for it. Jesus left Bethany one day. He and his disciples went to the temple, and as they went into the temple, he saw the tables there, and he saw the money changes there, and he saw the pigeons there, and he saw all these people doing business in God's house. And he was mad. I mean, he was frustrated. He was angry. And I know what you're thinking. He turned over the tables. No, he didn't. See, I did a study on this. In Mark 11, the whole first 20 verses says that he went and saw it, got mad, and didn't say a word. Kept quiet. So you can be mad and be quiet. Then he went home, still mad at the money changes. The next day, he came back again, and this is the day he turned over the tables. This is the day he said, the den of thieves, you're in my God's house making money. Now, was he angry the day before? Yep. Was that the day to communicate? Oh, no. See, sometimes we get angry and we let our emotion, take over. He doesn't say, Paul doesn't write to the church, to Christians, and say, do not get angry. That's not what he says. What he does say is, when angry. So obviously, when two people come together, husband and wife, it's possible to have disagreements. It's possible to get angry. He doesn't say, don't get angry. He says, when angry, do not sin. So it is possible when you're angry to actually sin. It is possible when you're angry to do some things that you're sorry about later. Come on now, be honest. You've done that. When angry, it's possible to say some things that you're going to be sorry about later. Have you ever said anything to your spouse that later you never do anything right? You never cook right. You don't ever use those words again. No, 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 no. If they never did anything right, how come they married you? Come on, talk to me now. Obviously, they did something right. So you don't use those words never and ever. No. When angry, no, 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 no. Don't allow the devil into your marriage. What does it say? When angry, do not sin. Not words of sin, not actions of sin, and not even thoughts of sin. No, no. Don't let, it says, when angry, do not let the sin, let your wrath, don't sin, don't let the wrath last until sundown. What does that mean? Well, I always make a joke. If you're going to get mad, do it in the morning, you got all day. If you do it at night, you only got about 10 minutes. So, just kidding. What does he mean by this? He means simply this: don't fester that anger. Don't carry it into the next day. Don't let it grow and multiply, because they did one thing wrong and the next thing you know, that anger is festering and festering and festering, and you're thinking everything they do is wrong. And not everything they do is wrong, but one or two things they do is wrong. And that's why he says you will now let room for the devil. The moment you're angry and you don't communicate the right way at the right time, and you get mad and you explode and you give him a piece of your mind, and you say things you're going to regret later, do things you're going to regret later, think things you're going to regret later. Now what have you done? You've given the devil a foothold in your marriage. The word foothold is the word topos. We get the English word topography. You've literally given, and that English word topography is also the English word geography. When you get mad and you don't control that anger, you give the devil a geographical place in your marriage. Wow, I didn't know I was doing that. That's why we've got to go to the Word of God. That's why we've got to do it God's way. I remember one time, it's a funny story. My wife and I, we first got to Tulsa, Oklahoma. We were living in this little house, and in the middle of the night, I heard a scream. But one of my sons, something's wrong. We jumped out of bed, ran over there, and we found that my middle son, I think he was like maybe 6 or 7 at the time, and my youngest son, who was 3 years younger, maybe 4, were there in this bed, and my middle son was screaming because there was mud all over the bed, all over the sheets. And we figured it out. The youngest son, the 4-year-old Josiah, he woke up in the middle of the night, 4 years old, wants to play. Well, he wants to play in the backyard, and it is raining in the backyard. So he goes to the dining room, opens the sliding door, goes into the backyard, and he starts playing in the rain. And he's playing in the mud, and he's having mud all over his face, all over his body, all over his clothing. He's having a wonderful time playing in the mud while it's raining. And then, of course, because it's raining, he gets wet and he gets cold. Now he's cold. He comes back into the house, and you can see the mud tracks all the way coming from that door all the way and to his bedroom. Now he knows that his brother is sleeping in a nice warm bed. Maybe if he climbs in with his brother, he's going to get warm. So he quietly climbs in with his 7-year-old brother, and as he gets into that bed, that wet clothing, the mud, all that gets onto his brother, and his brother screams, and that's what woke us up. Were we mad? Were we angry? Absolutely. Did we want to do something and say something at that time? Absolutely, yes. But we didn't. Wrong time. Your emotions are about to take over. And when your emotions take over, you lose control. Remember that. You're never in control when your emotions take over. I found that out. When someone can trigger my emotions, they have taken control of my life. I got to control my emotions. No more. No more. We cleaned up the bed sheets, cleaned up the floor, cleaned up their clothing, put the youngest to bed, put the 7-year-old to bed, and then the next day, the next night, when everything was calm, no more emotion, no more screaming, shouting, we dealt with the situation. Don't ever let your emotions take over. When there's disagreements and there's trouble in the marriage, don't explode. Don't let your temper take over. I found out that it's very difficult to argue by yourself. You know, when somebody wants to argue and the other person doesn't want to argue with you, who are you going to argue with? Otherwise, you want the last word, they want the last word. You want the last word, they want the last word. You want the last word, and the next thing you know, you got this explosion going on, and it could have been dealt with. One thing of disagreement has turned into an explosion because they didn't know how to control their emotions. Jesus knew how to control his emotion. He knew when to get mad, when to turn tables, and when not to. He controlled it. We've got to control it if we want to have heaven on earth in our marriages. We've got to be able to solve disagreement. Not angry, not mad, not with emotion, but the next day. When we disagree and, you know, my wife's mad, I just zip up. It's time to zip up and go for a walk. Don't let your emotions take over. It's time now to simply go and chill out. Then the next day, say, honey, you know what? This is what you said. This is what you did. It upset me. I don't want to fight. I love you. You do wonderful things, but this is the one thing, and the reason I want to bring it out is because it hurt me, and I know you don't want to hurt me. Now that's how you deal with disagreement, because if you communicate, don't even deal with it the next day, then the devil puts a wedge, and you're thinking, and she's thinking, and you're thinking, and he's thinking, and these thoughts are going crazy. And when they're going crazy, now the wedge is there, and the separation in the marriage is getting wider and wider and wider. The number one reason for divorce today is lack of communication. Lack of communication at the proper time. The Bible will tell you how to do that. If you can deal with communication, you really will see heaven on earth in your marriage.
In this powerful marriage series, join Dr. Nasir and Dr. Anita Siddiki as they help you discover practical steps to improve your marriage.
You ought to be more concerned, men, about your wife's satisfaction and wives about your husband's satisfaction than your own.
If we would compliment our spouse once a day about something, about anything, if you lay your head on your pillow and think, I did not compliment my spouse, and then you wake up and you say, honey, and you pay them a compliment, oh my gosh, your marriage will change.
Get this powerful marriage series by calling 1-888-947-3660 or visit us online at wisdomministries.org.
Because you get to know each other, you become one. You truly become one. And your private life can go from glory to glory.
WisdomMinistries.org allows you to stay connected and up to date with upcoming events and teachings from Dr. Nasir Siddiki. Free teaching downloads, videos on demand, free magazines, online store, live streamed events, and much more. All of Dr. Siddiqui's teachings are just a click away. WisdomMinistries.org.